I'm Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on trigonometry relating to pre-calculus. We'll continue with multiple choice question, and now we are going to concentrate on vertical asymptotes. I have 5 multiple choice questions, and with those questions we'll understand all the concepts. Now, in trigonometry, you know tan theta, let me write down, let's say tan x. Now tan x is equals to sin x over cos x, where cos x is not equal to 0, correct? Cos x is not equal to 0. Now if cos x is 0, we get a vertical asymptote. For cotangent function cot x, which is cos x over sin x is not equal to 0, right? For the reciprocal functions like secant x, which is equals to 1 over cos x, again cos x is not equal to 0. For cosecant function, which is 1 over sin x is not equal to 0. Perfect. So basically you see that sin x and cos x zeros will cause vertical asymptote for such functions, right? So in these multiple choice questions, we'll be looking into the number of zeros which are possible for given functions. So I'd like you to look into these two graphs while answering these questions. One is the sine graph itself and its zeros. So for the sine graph, you see this is your one period for sine graph, and this is cosine graph, right? Now as you can see, the zeros of sine graph, these are 3 zeros in the domain 0 to 2 pi, correct? In general, we know that sin x is equal to 0 for x equals to n pi, right? So it could be, because sine is a periodic function, it extends, perfect. Therefore, in general, n could be any integer, right? So those are the zeros for sin x. For cos x equals to 0. These are the 2 points, right? So this is pi by 2. This is 3 pi by 2. So odd multiples of pi by 2. So x equals to 2n plus 1 times pi by 2 for both n belongs to set of integers, which you can write as I or z. So this is the base for answering all our multiple choice questions in this particular video. So I hope this part is absolutely clear. Okay, now let's move on and see the questions first. So here is the first question. You need to determine the number of vertical asymptotes of the graph of y equals to cot 2x in the interval 0 to 2 pi. Now, pause the video, copy this question, solve, and then look into other questions. Question number 2, we will now look into the function y equals to 2 secant half x in a different interval, right? So you should get good practice of finding out number of vertical asymptotes, right? Then question number 3, again determine number of vertical asymptotes of the graph of y equals to secant x cosecant x in this interval. So we have combination of these two functions. You may review compound angle formulas and double angle formulas to answer this question. Question number 4 is kind of tricky. So these question number 4 and 5 are thinking questions. Such questions you can see in IIT JEE paper, test entrance exam test papers, right? The question here is, if x equals to a and x equals to b are the vertical asymptotes of the graph of y equals to 2 cot 3x plus pi by 3, where x is between minus pi by 3 and pi by 3, then what is a plus b? You are given 5 options. The last question here is, find the number of vertical asymptotes of the graph of 3 secant pi x minus pi minus half in the interval half to 3 over 2. All right, so these are 5 questions for you to work on. So once you're done, look into my solutions. We'll begin with solution for question number 1. Here is solution for question number 1. Determine the number of vertical asymptotes of the graph of y equals to cot 2x. Now cot 2x could be written as cos x, that means cos 2x over sine 2x. So vertical asymptote means that sine 2x equals to 0, right? So those are the points which we are looking forward to. So it's a good idea to sketch the sine function and find the answer, right? So if I just analyze sine function, I'm able to get the result, correct? So interval is 0 to 2 pi. Sine 2x means 2 sine waves, right? So let me sketch 2 sine waves, 1 and then 2. So we have 2 sine waves within 0 to 2 pi. And number of zeros you can clearly see are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer is C. Do you get it? How you can very easily solve this question. Okay. Now the other approach, which I say alternate approach, which takes time, but it is a general solution. Which is general solution? You could adopt is that we know that sine theta is equal to 0 for theta equals to n pi, correct? So that is in general. So in our case, theta is 2x, right? So 2x is n pi, correct? So in our case, for sine 2x equals to 0, that means that implies that 2x is equals to n pi, or x is equals to n pi by 2, right? So x is n pi by 2. Now we are given the domain 0 to 2 pi, so we say that n pi by 2 is between 0 to 2 pi. Perfect. Multiply by 2, you get 0 is less than equals to n pi by 2 pi. And now we can divide by pi, 4 pi. So 2 times 2 is 4. We multiplied everything by 2. Now divide by pi. So we get 0 here, n less than equals to 4. So the values which are between 0 to 4 are 5 values. The values are 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So n could be where n equals to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is, if it is 0, we get 0. If it is 1, we get pi by 2, correct? If it is 2, we get pi. If it is 3, we get 3 pi by 2. Otherwise, we get 2 pi. So we get all our solutions for the given function, right? So this is sine 2x. What is important to note here is that whatever the function is, you're working with the denominator, which could be sine or cosine. Does it make sense to you, right? So I've shown you 2 different techniques. Clearly, the graphing technique is the best, which could immediately get you the answers. Perfect. Question number 2. You can apply any of the technique learned in the previous example to answer this question. Perfect. Now, we need to determine number of vertical asymptotes of the graph of y equals to 2. So instead of secant x, I'm writing 1 over cos, right? Half x. Does it make sense to you, right? Same thing, correct? And we will be looking into the interval from minus 2 pi to 2 pi. Okay. So this time we are going to apply the graph, right? So let's do the graph. Half x means what? What is the time period for cosine function? Now the cosine function time period t is equal to 2 pi divided by the k value of half, which is 4 pi, correct? So one wave of cosine will be in 4 pi. So from minus 2 pi to plus 2 pi, we expect how much? So what we are saying here is for the cos function, we are only looking into cos function, okay? Cos half x. So if I sketch one wave, let's sketch one wave first, right? So the time period is 4 pi. So this point is at 4 pi. Our interval is up to 2 pi, right? So up to this point, 2 pi. Do you see that? Half of it, right? So on this side from symmetry, it's an even function. We can again sketch it. So we know that this position here is minus 2 pi. How many zeros do we have? We have only 2 zeros in the given interval, and therefore the answer is option B. Is that clear? So try to get used to the graphing technique and get such answers. Okay? Now, let's look into the third question, which is determine the number of vertical asymptotes of the graph of y equals to secant x is 1 over cos x and cosecant is 1 over sin x. Now, that could be written as, let's multiply both numerator and denominator by 2. Just to remind you, we could write this as sin x cos x. Perfect. What is 2 sin x cos x? Sin 2x. Perfect. Sin 2x. So this time we have to sketch the graph of sin 2x to get our answer, right? Interval minus pi to 4 pi. So when it becomes such a long interval, we'll go with our general formula. You understand? So we'll not use the graphing technique this time, right? We know that sin 2x will be equal to 0 if 2x is equals to n pi or x is equals to n pi by 2. Perfect. We are now only looking for n values. So we can say that for n values, we are given that n pi by 2 could be between these values, minus pi to 4 pi, correct? To solve it, let's multiply by 2, so we get minus and divide by pi, right? So we get minus 2, and we have n, and we have 8 here. So what did we do here? The whole equation was multiplied by 2 over pi. Do you get it, right? So we combined two steps. You have seen how we did it in previous example. Now that gives you all the possible values of n. N could be minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, to 8, right? So these are 8 numbers, 9, 10, 11. So option B is the right option. Do you get it, right? So you will see that at times, graphing, especially when we have a big interval like this, is not a good idea. This is pretty good, right? So you should know both the techniques. That's what I want to emphasize. So now let's look into question number 4. Question number 4. If x equals to a and x equals to b are the vertical asymptotes of the graph of y equals to 2 cot 3x plus pi by 3, where x is between minus pi by 3 and plus pi by 3, then a plus b is equal to what? I'd like you to pause the video, copy the question, and then look into my suggestions. Now we are looking into vertical asymptotes, right? So that means denominator is 0. Cot can be written as cos over sine. So we could write this as 2 cos of whatever, which is this function, 3x plus pi by 3 over sine of 3x plus pi by 3. Perfect. Now, vertical asymptote is possible only when sine of, let me factor out this term, so we get 3, and we could write this as x plus pi by 9, is that okay, is equal to 0. That is when you are going to get a vertical asymptote. Perfect. Now, I'll solve this using graph. So let's try to sketch the sine function. Sine wave, you know, is kind of a wave like this, right? So let's just wave. Okay, so let's say this is sine wave. Now, since we have kind of a similar domain, left and right, so let us say that we consider the function from here. So that is y-axis for us, this is x-axis for us. Now when we are saying that the function is sine 3x plus pi by 4, that really means that the time period is how much. So from here we know k equals to 3, and therefore t equals to 2 pi by 3. Is it okay? So one wave up to here is 2 pi by 3. And so on this side this is minus 2 pi by 3. Is it okay? That is one wave. But since it is plus pi by 9, we have to shift pi by 9 to the left, right? So let's see what is that. We'll try to sketch the final function. So this is pi by 3, right? So that is pi by 3. This is minus pi by 3. So that is the domain in which we have to work. However, the function before us is sine of 3 times x plus pi by 9. So we have to shift horizontally. So we have to translate horizontally pi by 9 left. Is that okay? So that means 1/3 of this, correct? So that much is pi by 9. 1/3, right? So we have to move all these points 1/3 unit to get our function. So as you do that, the 0 shifts to this position, correct? That position. And the 0 at 0 comes to this point. So the wave which we are looking into, the sine wave, is now kind of like this. Is it okay? So finally, within the given domain, we have two zeros. One zero here is at minus pi by 9, and the 0 here is, this is 1 pi by 9, this is 2 pi by 9. Is it okay? 2 pi by 9. So these are the two zeros. Now the question is, if x equals to a and x equals to b are the vertical asymptotes. So when denominator is 0, we have vertical asymptote. So we know x is equals to minus pi by 9, and a is equals to, which is a, and b is equals to this 0, which is 2 pi by 9. What is this sum? Let's add a and b, right? It is minus pi by 9 plus 2 pi by 9, correct? Clearly it is equals to pi by 9. So option A is the correct option. You get it? It's a very important solution. You could do using many methods, but probably this is the shortest method. I'd like you to go through this once again, since this question could be in your test paper, right? Feel free to write your comments and share your views. And if you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. The question here is, find the number of vertical asymptotes of the graph of y equals to 3 secant pi x minus pi minus half in the interval half to 3 by 2. So let's rewrite this function. Secant is 1 over cos, right? So it is 3 over cos of pi x minus pi minus half. Since we are looking for vertical asymptotes, that means denominator should be 0, right? So that implies that cos of pi x plus pi should be equal to 0. That too in this given domain, right? Now when is cos theta 0? As you know, cos theta is 0 in general. Cos theta equals to 0 for theta equals to pi by 2 plus n pi, where n belongs to integers, right? So n belongs to integers. That is what you know. So from here we can say that for this being 0, pi x plus pi should be equal to pi by 2 plus n pi. Is that clear? Now we can just divide by pi, so we get x plus 1 equals to half plus n, or x is equal to, taking 1 to this side, n minus half, right? So that is the value of x. Now the condition given to us is that this value of x should be in the interval half to 3 by 2, right? So let's apply this condition. That is, n minus half should be less than equal to 3 by 2 but greater than equal to half. Let us multiply everything by 2 to get rid of this fraction, or we can just add half, right? So let's add half. So we have half plus half is less than equal to n, which is less than equal to 3 by 2 plus, 3 by 2 plus half. So this is 1 and n is 2 over 2, which is 1. No, we have to add, sorry. So we have to add 4 over 2, which is 2, right? So n is greater than equal to 1, less than equal to 2. That means n could be equal to 1 or 2. So these are the two possible values for n. Perfect. And therefore, the answer B is correct. So we have two vertical asymptotes within the given interval for the secant function. Is that clear? So that is how you could actually solve this question. So what you have seen here is that we have solved all 5 questions. We used different techniques to solve them, and they actually probably helped you to figure out different ways of solving such questions. If you find it useful, feel free to write your comments, share your views, and also share your test papers. Thanks for watching and all the best.